The Arabian Peninsula stretches across the horizon like an endless sea of sand, interrupted by jagged mountains, rocky outcrops, and scattered oases. To the casual observer, it may appear lifeless, barren, and silent. But for those who knew its secrets, Arabia was alive, vibrant, and unforgiving. Every grain of sand carried the memory of tribes, battles, and generations bound together by codes older than any written law. Life here was defined not by kings or empires, but by tribes. Loyalty was sacred, betrayal unforgivable, and revenge a moral obligation. To insult a man or dishonor a family could spark wars that would last decades. Survival in this harsh land required courage, cunning, and an unshakable sense of duty to one's lineage. Even the wind seemed to whisper tales of honor and vendetta, tales carried from oasis to oasis, from caravan to caravan. Caravans crossed the desert, carrying spices, incense, textiles, and treasures. Merchants and travelers told stories of their journeys, while poets immortalized bravery and vengeance in verse. Yet, beneath the vibrancy of trade and culture lay a cycle of bloodshed so deeply ingrained that wealth, influence, or temporary peace could not break it. The Qur'an reflects upon such human tendencies in Surah Al-A, "And we have certainly established you upon the earth and made for you therein ways of livelihood. Little are you grateful." Even in prosperity, society without moral guidance could fall into chaos. Arabia's pre-Islamic tribes knew this truth intimately, a civilization rich in valor but yearning for divine guidance. Arabian society revolved around the family, clan, and tribe. Every person traced their ancestry to a shared forefather, and loyalty to this lineage was absolute. The tribe was more than a social unit. It was a lifeline, a shield, and a moral universe in itself. At the head of the tribe stood the sheikh, chosen for wisdom, courage, and the ability to uphold honor. Leadership, however, was never absolute. The majlis, a council of elders, deliberated on matters of justice, alliances, and survival strategies. Decisions were communal, yet deeply influenced by custom, precedent, and the tribe's sense of honor. Tribes were further divided into sub-clans, creating a web of relationships complex enough to govern behavior across generations. Loyalty to one's tribe was paramount, betrayal was unforgivable, and shame could haunt families for decades. Poetry played a critical role, praising valor and shaming cowardice, embedding moral lessons into memory and culture. Women held a unique position within this social framework. While their autonomy was limited, their protection and honor were central to the tribe's reputation. Ghaira, protective jealousy, ensured women were shielded, but also confined. Even a poet's words could elevate or tarnish a family's standing, and disputes over women could trigger wars lasting decades. The Qur'an emphasized moral fidelity beyond bloodlines in Surah At-Tawbah. "O you who have believed, fear Allah and be with those who are true." Faith, not merely lineage, was the ultimate measure of righteousness, a principle yet to be fully realized in pre-Islamic Arabia. In the desert, honor was life itself, and blood vengeance, or qisas, was sacred. If a tribe member was wronged or killed, retaliation was obligatory. Failure to avenge an insult or murder was seen as weakness, a stain on the family's honor that could span generations. The Baarizah War exemplifies this harsh reality. Beginning over the killing of a single camel, it escalated into a 40-year conflict between the Banu Taghlib and Banu Bakr tribes, claiming thousands of lives. Such feuds were not uncommon. Minor offenses could spiral into wars that shaped Arabia's social and political fabric for decades. Poets immortalized these conflicts. Through verse, they celebrated bravery, loyalty, and revenge, ensuring that every generation internalized the tribal code. The oral tradition functioned as both law and history, passing down instructions for honor and vengeance. The Qur'an cautions against endless feuds in Surah Al-Imran. And those who, when they commit an indecency or wrong themselves, remember Allah and seek forgiveness, and do not persist in what they have done. Arabia's deserts bred both courage and conflict. Valor was honored, but mercy was rare, leaving a society rich in bravery, but starving for spiritual guidance. Poets, or shu'ara, were the historians, commentators, and influencers of pre-Islamic Arabia. A single poem could immortalize a tribe's glory, dishonor a rival, or justify revenge. The Mu'allaqat, 7 celebrated odes, exemplify how poetry merged art with politics, history, and morality. Courage, loyalty, and vengeance were glorified, cowardice and dishonor condemned. Poets traveled with caravans, spreading stories across vast deserts. A feud in one oasis could reignite in another, hundreds of miles away, fueled by verses of outrage or praise. The Qur'an warns in Surah Al-Isra, "And do not follow what you have no knowledge of. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, all of those will be questioned." While oral tradition shaped honor, Islam would later redefine human worth, prioritizing faith and moral conduct over lineage and eloquence. Without centralized authority, tribes enforced justice internally. Disputes over property, murder, or insult were resolved by negotiation, retaliation, or diya, blood money. But justice was fragile. What one tribe deemed sufficient compensation could be inadequate for another, reigniting conflicts. Leaders walked a delicate line between honor, loyalty, and survival. Even minor misunderstandings could lead to long-lasting wars. Ibn Kathir recounts instances where trivial disputes escalated into decades-long feuds, demonstrating the precarious nature of tribal justice. The Qur'an establishes a higher standard in Surah An-Nisa. "O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or parents and relatives." Islamic justice would transcend tribal bias, promoting fairness and morality beyond bloodline obligations. Tribal alliances were both essential and fragile. Alliances formed through marriage, treaties, and mutual interests, yet today's ally could become tomorrow's enemy. The Aws and Khazraj of Yathrib, later Medina, illustrate this cycle. Generations of cooperation, betrayal, and reconciliation shaped the city's history. The Hilf al-Fudul, established in Mecca around 590 CE, demonstrates a rare attempt at moral justice. This pact sought to protect the weak and uphold fairness beyond tribal interests. The young Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, participated, highlighting the seeds of moral consciousness amidst entrenched tribal codes. The Qur'an reflects on human tendencies in Surah Al-Rum. Corruption has appeared on land and sea because of what the hands of people have earned. Even structured alliances could not ensure peace. Only divine guidance could achieve lasting justice. Women, central to the tribal code, were both symbols and guardians of honor. Their reputation could spark conflicts or secure alliances. In Himyarite, Christian, and Jewish communities, women enjoyed some religious protection, but in the nomadic deserts of Mecca and surrounding tribes, tribal law dominated. Fathers arranged marriages, and husbands could dissolve unions at will. Yet women wielded influence behind the scenes, shaping lineage, wealth, and alliances. The Qur'an introduced a revolutionary principle in Surah An-Nahl. Indeed, Allah commands justice and the doing of good and giving to relatives, and forbids immorality and bad conduct and oppression. Moral accountability began to transcend lineage and tribal expectations. Arabia prospered through trade, conquest, and alliances, yet moral decay persisted. The Quraysh, for example, accumulated wealth through caravans and markets, but cycles of revenge and pride continued to plague society. Poetry and commerce glorified cunning over righteousness, strength over compassion. The Qur'an highlights this emptiness in Surah Al-Ma'un. Have you seen the one who denies the recompense? That is the one who drives away the orphan and does not encourage the feeding of the poor. Wealth without moral grounding left Arabia rich in material but poor in ethics, a society yearning for guidance. The tribal code, while essential for survival, could not resolve injustice, oppression, or moral decay. Generations of Arabs lived bound by honor and revenge, but the Qur'an foretold in Surah Al-Balad a unifying moral code sent by Allah to guide hearts beyond bloodlines. But He has not broken through the difficult pass. And what can make you know what the difficult pass is? It is the freeing of a slave or feeding on a day of hunger. Faith, justice, and compassion, values absent under tribal law, would now define human worth. The arrival of the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, would illuminate this path, uniting tribes under divine guidance. The deserts of Arabia had witnessed centuries of loyalty, honor, and revenge. Caravans traversed mountains and valleys, markets thrived, yet hearts remained restless. Tribal law maintained order, but could not satisfy humanity's deeper needs for justice, morality, and unity. Arabia cried for a solution. That solution arrived through revelation, a divine law surpassing human codes, capable of breaking cycles of vengeance, uniting tribes, and illuminating hearts with faith, ethics, and justice. Next, we'll reveal Arabia's deep cry for a messenger and the arrival of guidance. The stage was set for the final revelation, which would transform hearts, societies, and the world.